Very, very good morning to all of you, my friends. Welcome back. In the last session, we discussed under or over absorption of overhead. Now we are left out with one question on calculation of machine hour rate. So without wasting time, let's start with the question illustration number 6 on calculation of machine hour rate. I request you guys to please open study material page number 4.38. I'm discussing a question on machine hour rate. Thereafter, we'll start with activity-based costing. So let's start with illustration number 6, page number 4.38 of the revised study material. So a machine costing rupees 1 crore is expected to run for 10 years. Now, at the end of this period, its scrap value is likely to be 9 lakh. Repairs during the whole life of the machinery are expected to be 18 lakh. And the machine is expected to run for 4,380 hours per year on an average. Its electricity consumption is 15 units per hour and the rate per unit is 5 rupees. The machine occupies 1/4 of the area of the department and has 2 points out of the total 10 lighting points. The foreman devote about 1/6 of his time to the machine and the monthly rent. Further, the monthly rent of the department is 30,000 and the lighting charges amounting to rupees 8,000 per month. The foreman is paid a monthly salary of 19,200. Find out the machine hour rate assuming insurance at the rate 1% and the expenses on oil etc. are 900 rupees per month. So guys, when talking about the machine hour rate, the concept is very simple. That is the total cost divided by the number of machine hours, we will get the machine hour rate. Further, the total cost is to be distributed in two parts, that is fixed cost or standing cost, and second part is variable cost or running cost. So let's start with the calculation of machine hour rate. I'm calculating it per month and per hour. Alternatively, you can calculate it per year and per hour also. Both the approaches are correct. Now the total cost will be classified in two parts, that is fixed cost oblique standing cost. And variable cost or running cost. So now let's start. When talking about the cost of the machine, its useful life and scrap value is given. We will calculate the depreciation on machinery. So 1 crore is the cost of machine minus the scrap value is 9 lakh divided by useful life is 10 years into 1/12. We'll get the cost per month. Very good morning, everyone. 75,833. Further, they are talking about repairs, that is 18 lakhs. So it's a variable cost. Will write it down separately. The machine is expected to run for 4,380 hours per year. So since we are using the monthly data, so machine hours are given per year. That is 4,380. Therefore, machine hours per month will be 4,380. Now, the electricity consumption is rupees 15 per hour, and the rate per, the electricity consumption is 15 units per hour and the rate is rupees 5. So again, this is a variable cost. We'll consider this separately. Now the machine occupies 1/4 of the area of the department. So they are talking about the rent, and here in the monthly rental is given, that is 30,000. So the monthly rent is given, that is 30,000. Rent is given, that is 30,000, and it occupies 1/4 area of the factory. It occupies 1/4 area of the factory. So 30,000 divided by 4 will get 7,500. Further, the lighting charges are given, that is 8,000 per month. And it is given in the question that 2 points out of total 10 for lighting points are actually occupied by the machine. So into 2 divided by 10. So this will be 1,600. One second, guys. So now done with the lighting charges, that is 1,600 rupees. Thereafter, foreman is paid a monthly salary of 19,200, and it is given in the question that the foreman has to devote 1/6 of his time to the machine. Its monthly salary is 19,200 and it devotes 1/6 of the time to the machine. So this will be 3,200. Further, it is given in the question that insurance is 1% per annum. So the total value of machine is 1 crore into 1% divided by 12. So we'll get the insurance amount, that is 8,333. Further, the sundries and the expenses on oil, etc., are 900 per month. So sundry expenses are 900 per month. So this is all what about the fixed cost. So we will calculate the total fixed cost and we'll calculate it on per hour basis. So herein, yes, Miss Gomti, I'll be discussing your query. Don't worry. So 75,833 plus 7,500 plus 1,600 plus 3,200 plus 8,333 plus 900. So we have got 97,366 as the total fixed cost per month. Divided by the number of hours. So you'll get the hourly rate, that is 266.76. Now let's write down the variable cost also. So herein there are only two types of variable cost that is given in the question. That is, first one is repairs. So repairs during the whole life of the machine are expected to be rupees 18 lakh. So total repairs are 18 lakh divided by the hours are given, that is the machine is expected to run for 4,380 hours per year. So now when talking about repairs, it is given that the total cost of repairs is 18 lakh for the entire life of machine. So divided by 10, that is we will get it per year, and if we want to calculate per hour, so into 4,380, because the machine hours in a year is 4,380. In simple terms, the total repair cost is 18 lakh for the entire life, and every year the machine is expected to run for 4,380 hours. So for the entire life, 43,800 hours the machine is expected to run. So 4,380 into 10, that is total 43,800 hours the machine is expected to run. So 18 lakh divided by 43,800. So we'll get the per hour rate, that is 41.10. Further, electricity. Further, when talking about electricity, it says that every hour 15 units are consumed and the per unit rate is 5. So 15 into 5, that is 75. So now the total machine hour rate will be how much? $382.86. So this is how the machine hour rate is calculated. Again, the concept is very easy. That is the total cost divided by the number of hours. When talking about the variable cost, it is always calculated on per hour basis. And when talking about fixed cost, calculate the total fixed cost divided by number of hours. We'll get the fixed cost per hour plus the variable cost. We will get the total cost. So this is all what about machine hour rate. If you guys have any doubts, then you guys can please post your query. So I have got few queries. So when calculating the machine hour rate, we need to calculate fixed and variable cost. Yes, Gomti, we have to consider fixed and variable cost separately. Yes, Ashok, we have to divide the cost, that is fixed cost and variable cost. See, Suman Goyal, it is given in the question that the lighting charges are fixed. See, the language itself is suggesting that the lighting charges amount to rupees 8,000 per month. So we will assume that it is fixed. But yes, when talking about the electricity consumption, it is given that total 15 units are consumed per hour, and the rate per hour is and the rate per unit is 5. So lighting charges are fixed and electricity charges are variable. So Sakshija sir, can you please explain the depreciation part again? So Sakshi, when talking about depreciation, the cost of the machinery is 1 crore. The cost of the machinery is 1 crore minus scrap value. The original cost minus scrap value divided by useful life. We will get the depreciation for the year. If we divide it by 12 months, we will get the depreciation for the month. Herein, we have to classify the cost in two parts only, that is fixed and variable. Mr. Srinivasan. So this is all what about calculation of machine hour rate, guys. Very simple. When talking about the questions on machine hour rate, the concept is very simple. Calculate the total machine cost divided by the number of machine hour. We will get the machine hour rate. When talking about the total cost, it will be divided in two parts, that is fixed cost and variable cost. Fixed cost, we do calculate the total fixed cost divided by number of hours. We will get the fixed cost per hour, and variable cost is anyways calculated per hour only. So this is how the total machine hour rate is calculated. So we are done with this part. Insurance, Shweta Maruti, please check the revised study material. So Mamta Yadav, when talking about about solving MCQ question, if you are thorough with the concept, you can easily solve a question, and the answer what you are getting will be there in either of the choices that are given in the question. So I repeat again, Mamta, आप questions अच्छे से solve कीजिए. If you are conceptually strong, solve the question. आप जो आंसर कैलकुलेट करेंगे वो आपको मल्टीपल चॉइस में एक चॉइस तो आपको मिल ही जाएगा. So guys, without wasting time, now we have to, we have to start with activity-based costing. In the meanwhile, if you guys have any doubts, you guys can please post your queries. Shweta, insurance is taken. Insurance is not taken on 91 lakh. Please check the revised study material. There is a correction in the past study material. So herein the insurance will be taken on full amount, that is 1 crore. So done with calculation of machine hour rate now. So let's start with activity-based costing. Enough of discussion on overheads. So now let's start with activity-based costing. Now this chapter, activity-based costing, is not a new chapter, but it is in continuation of the chapter what we have already finished, that is overhead. I repeat again, guys, this activity-based costing is not a new chapter, but in continuation of the chapter what we have just completed, that is overhead. Now, there is a difference between the approach of overheads and activity-based costing. So, let's start with this chapter, activity-based costing. Now, what we used to do in overhead and what we will be doing in activity-based costing, let me discuss this practically with the help of a situation wherein what we used to do in overhead is, let's say we have three production department, P1, P2, P3, and S1 and S2 service department. I repeat again, what is the difference between overheads and activity-based costing? I'm discussing now. So let's say we have three production department, P1, P2, P3, S1 and S2. Let's say these are the overheads: rent, electricity, depreciation, indirect wages. So what we used to do in overheads, very simple, we used to allocate the overheads or apportion the overheads among various production department or service department. This was the first step what we were doing in overhead. Thereafter, we used to reapportion the overheads of service department to the production department. This is how we get the total overheads of the production department. Now, after getting the total overheads of production department, what we used to do? We used to calculate the absorption rate. That is, we used to calculate the absorption rate using a basis of absorption that is either on the basis of labor hours or machine hours or on the basis of material cost or prime cost. This is what we used to do in overheads. So what we used to do, we used to calculate the total overheads of a production department, and on a particular basis, we used to calculate the absorption. Now, this activity-based costing says that this approach is incorrect. I repeat again, this activity-based costing says this approach is incorrect. This approach is incorrect. How can you absorb all the overheads of a particular department using a single base? एक पर्टिकुलर प्रोडक्शन डिपार्टमेंट के सारे ओवरहेड्स आप एक सिंगल बेसिस पे कैसे अब्सॉर्ब कर सकते हैं? आई रिपीट अगेन, हाउ कैन यू अब्सॉर्ब all the overheads, that is rent, electricity, power consumption, depreciation? How can you absorb all the overheads only on a single basis? I have a better approach. Now, what is the approach of activity-based costing? Activity-based costing says that instead of absorbing all the overheads using a single base, better identify the activities of the organization. What activity-based costing says? Identify the activities of the organization. And all the costs that are associated with the activity will be grouped together to form cost pool. I repeat again, what activity-based costing says? That first identify the activities of the organization. First identify the activities of the organization. One second. Let me open the study material also, because I'll be discussing few questions from study material. So this activity-based costing says that instead of absorbing all the overheads on a single basis, that is either on the basis of machine hours or labor hours, it says first identify the activities of the organization. So the activities can be material procurement, can be an activity. quality control and inspection can be an activity. Setup cost can be an activity. Further, when talking about machining cost can be an activity. So activity based costing says first identify the activity. जो भी organization की activity है वो सब identify कीजिए and further what you have to do, whatever the costs that are associated with that activity will be grouped together to form what? Cost pools. उस एक्टिविटी के रिलेटेड जितनी भी कॉस्ट हमारी है, उस एक्टिविटी के रिलेटेड जितनी भी कॉस्ट है हमारी, इट विल बी ग्रुप टुगेदर टू फॉर्म कॉस्ट पूल्स. एंड thereafter it says for every activity there will be a separate basis of absorption. For every activity there will be a separate basis of absorption. हम लोग ओवरहेड्स में क्या करते थे, सारे ओवरहेड्स की टोटल लगाते थे डिवाइडेड बाय आइदर मशीन आवर्स or labor hours, we were getting a single absorption rate. But yes, activity based costing says that for every activity there will be a separate basis of absorption. And once the absorption basis, that is the basis of absorption, is identified, we will calculate the absorption. So this activity based costing says first identify the activities of the organization. Second, whatever the costs that are associated with that activity will be grouped together to form a cost pools. Now, once the cost pools are fixed or set up, then what we have to do for every activity, we have to identify a separate basis of absorption. हर activity के लिए एक separate basis होगा. And once we have identified the basis of absorption, we can easily calculate the absorption rate. So instead of absorbing the overheads, all the overheads on a single basis, you have to we have to calculate separate absorption rate for every activity. So that is the difference between the overheads and activity based costing. This activity based costing gives us the better and correct data rather than overhead. So this is all what about the concept of activity based costing. I'll be writing this over the board. Yes, examiner do ask theory questions also, Shweta. So now, what we used to do in overheads, we call it as traditional approach. What we used to do in overheads, we call it as traditional approach. What we used to do? Very simple, total overheads divided by only single basis of absorption, that is either on the basis of machine hours or labor hours. So there was only a one basis of absorption, and accordingly we used to calculate one absorption rate only. But when talking about activity based costing, what it says that first identify the activities of the organization. First identify the activities of the organization. Once the activities are identified, then whatever the cost that is associated with that activity will be grouped together to form cost. So what we will do now, whatever the cost associated with the activity will be grouped together, to form cost pool. So first identify the activities of the organization. Now, whatever the cost that is associated with an activity will be grouped together to form cost pool. Now, for every activity, there will be a separate basis of absorption. We call it as cost driver. For every activity, there will be a separate for every activity there will be a separate basis of absorption. For every activity there will be a separate basis of the absorption known as cost driver. For every activity there will be a separate basis of absorption known as cost driver. So now once the cost drivers are identified, we can easily calculate the absorption rate for every activity. So now once the absorption rate is calculated, we can easily charge, using that absorption rate, we can easily charge the overheads to a particular product or to a particular job to calculate the total cost. So once the absorption rate is calculated, we can charge the overheads to a product to calculate the total cost using the absorption rate, using the absorption rate, we can charge the overheads to a particular product or to a particular job to calculate the total cost. So I repeat again, when talking about the steps involved in activity-based costing, the first step says identify the various activities of the organization. Now, whatever the costs that are associated with an activity will be grouped together to form cost pools. And for every activity, there will be a separate basis of absorption known as cost driver. So once the cost drivers are identified, the cost pool is there, the activity is there, we can easily calculate the absorption rate. And once the absorption rate is calculated, using the absorption rate, we can charge the overheads to a product to calculate the total cost. So these are the various steps involved in activity-based costing. Now, when talking about from examination point of view or from practical question point of view, when talking about the first step, that is identification of the activities of the organization, this information will always be given in the question. आपको इतनी मेहनत नहीं करनी है कि ऑर्गेनाइजेशन की एक्टिविटी आइडेंटिफाई करनी है, क्वेश्चन में आपको सारी एक्टिविटीज गिवन होगी. When talking about the costs that are associated with an activity, so this data will always be given in the question. कि suppose there are 10 activities, so हर एक्टिविटी के आगे आपको उसका टोटल कॉस्ट दिया हुआ होगा. So this information is always given in the question. Now, when talking about that, what will be the basis of absorption of that activity? Sometimes you guys need to identify it, and sometimes question will give you straight away that for this activity, this is the basis of absorption. For this activity, this is the basis of absorption. So guys, again, sometimes the question will be silent. So you have to थोड़ा आपको दिमाग लगाना पड़ेगा टू फिगर आउट दैट किस एक्टिविटी का क्या बेसिस ऑफ ऑब्जॉर्प्शन हो सकता है. सो इट विल कम विद प्रैक्टिस. ग्रेजुअली व्हेन यू सॉल्व 5 to 6 क्वेश्चन यू विल बी एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट किस एक्टिविटी का क्या बेसिस ऑफ ऑब्जॉर्प्शन होता है. So herein, when talking about for every activity, there will be a separate basis of absorption. So I'm writing to identify. You have to identify. Absorption rate you need to calculate. And then thereafter using that absorption rate, you can charge the overheads to a particular product to calculate the total cost. So when talking about traditional approach, total overheads divided by only one basis of absorption. When talking about activity-based costing, for every activity, there will be a separate basis of absorption using cost driver. If you guys have any doubts in this part, you guys can please post your query. I'm done with the explanation of the concept part. Now we'll be discussing 4 to 5 practical questions on activity-based costing. So whatever the queries you have, you guys can please post your queries. In the meanwhile, I suggest you guys to please copy this explanation. So giving you 3 to 4 minutes time. So please copy this explanation. Thereafter, we'll start with the practical questions. Cost driver is the basis of absorption. And for every activity, the whatever the costs that are associated with an activity will be grouped together to form cost pools. So Shweta, Mamta, Mr. Venkatraman, Akshay, Santosh Das, Akshok, Sakshi, anyone having any doubts? Gomti, Ms. Anj, good to see you. Good morning. Sushil, any doubts? Cost driver is the basis of absorption of every activity. There will be a separate cost driver for every activity. Mr. Raghavan, I think you are not there today. Manohar Yadav, I want to correct you that first identify the activities. Now, whatever the costs that are relating to that activity will be grouped together to form cost pool. And for every activity, there will be a separate basis of absorption. We call it as cost driver. And accordingly, separate absorption rate will be calculated for every activity. Srinivasan, admin and selling overhead has nothing to do with calculation of machine hour rate. Any doubt, Shweta? Miss Ansari Tahira, hopefully your query is resolved. Neha Sharma, any other queries? We are done with the conceptual part, so we'll be discussing only the practical question now. So, what is the difference between the traditional system of costing that we used to follow in overheads? And I hope you guys are thorough with this concept. Yes, Mamta. Yes, Shweta. Any other doubts? I request you guys to please copy this explanation. Last 1 minute time for you guys. This Manohar Yadav, this method is more practical and I mean, more. It's better and practically used. But yes, there are chances of under or over absorption in any case, whether you're following activity-based costing or you're following a traditional system of costing. So, guys, now let's proceed further with the practical part of the chapter. So I'll be discussing few practical questions from the study material. But before this, let me give you a few examples of what all can be an activity and what will be the cost driver for an activity. So when talking about the activities, so just writing few illustrative things. So when talking about material procurement can be an activity. And when talking about the cost driver or basis of absorption of material procurement किसके related है? Very simple. Material procurement cost किस basis पे incur होता है? On the basis of number of purchase order. जितना ज्यादा purchase order देंगे उतना ज्यादा procurement cost बढ़ेगा. So we can say number of purchase order can be a basis of absorption for material procurement. So जितने ज्यादा परचेज ऑर्डर होंगे उतना ज्यादा मटेरियल प्रोक्योरमेंट कॉस्ट इनकर होगा. फर्दर, when talking about the quality control and inspection, it can be an activity. It can be either absorbed on the basis of number of tests Further, if number of tests are not given, we can do quality control and inspection on every production run. So number of production run can also be a basis of absorption. Further, machining cost, whatever the costs that are related to machine will be absorbed on the basis of machine hours worked. We can say when talking about the supervision cost, it can be on the basis of labor hours or number of workers. Or on the basis of number of workers. So these are the few examples of activity and the cost driver, that is what will be the cost driver of a particular activity. Rest you guys can refer study material. So now let's start with few practical questions. So I'll be discussing the questions from study material. I request you guys to please open your study material. So I'm starting with illustration number 1 of the study material, page number 5.14. I'm discussing illustration number 1, page number 5.14 of the study material. of the revised study material. So I request you guys to please open page number 5.14. I'm discussing illustration number 1. So let's start. ABC Limited is a multi-product company manufacturing 3 products, that is A, B, and C. So there are 3 products, A, B, and C. The budgeted cost and production for the year ending 31st March are as follows, wherein when talking about A, total the production quantity is 4,000, for B it is 3,000, for C it is 1,600. Further, the resources required per unit, that is direct material in kgs, is given and labor hour in minutes is given. So now the budgeted direct labor rate is rupees 10 per hour. It means the wages are paid at the rate of rupees 10 per hour. And the budgeted material cost is rupees 2 per kg. Production overhead were budgeted at 99,450 and were absorbed to product using the direct labor hour rate. What we were doing earlier when talking about the traditional system of costing, what we have already discussed, the overheads, that is 99,450 rupees, are absorbed on the basis of direct labor hour. So this is the basis of absorption under overheads. So ABC Limited followed the absorption costing system. Now ABC Limited is now considering to adopt an activity-based costing system. So now our traditional system se switch, okay, they are planning to adopt activity-based costing system. Now the following additional information is made available for this purpose. When talking about the activities, they have identified 3 activities, that is material handling, storage cost, and electricity. And the costs that are related to that activity are also given. Further, when talking about drivers also, that what will be the basis of absorption, आपको एक्टिविटी के सामने ही दे दिया. So no need to identify, कुछ दिमाग लगाने की जरूरत ही नहीं है कि किस एक्टिविटी का क्या बेसिस ऑफ अब्जॉर्प्शन होगा. इन्होंने क्लियरली दे रखा है. When talking about the material handling activity, the overheads are absorbed on the basis of weight of material. When talking about the storage cost, the number of batches of material. And when talking about electricity cost, number of machine operations. Now the additional data is given. Data on cost driver was as follows, wherein for complete production, पूरे production के लिए batches of material are 10, 5 and 15. And for per unit of production, the number of machine operations are given, that is 6, 3 and 2. Now, you are requested to prepare a statement for management showing the unit cost and the total cost of each product using absorption costing. So first question, I repeat again, prepare a statement for the management showing the unit cost, that is the per unit cost, and the total cost of each product using absorption costing method. So let's start with the first part, then we will read the second part and we'll try to solve. So let's start with the first part, that is calculation of total cost, unit cost and total cost using absorption costing. Statement showing calculation of unit cost statement showing calculation of unit cost and total cost so there are 3 products. So when talking about material cost, it is given that direct material in kgs is given, that is 4, 6 and 3. And the rate per kg is how much? Rupees 2 per kg. So when talking about the material cost, material required is how much? 4 kgs, 6 kgs and 3 kgs. And the rate of material is given, that is rupees 2 per kg. So this will be 4 into 8, that is 4 into 2, that is 8 rupees. 6 into 2, that is 12 rupees. And 3 into 2, that is 6 rupees. Further, when talking about the labor cost, it is given that the direct labor hours in minutes, that is required per units in minutes is 30 minutes, 45 minutes and 60 minutes. And the rate per hour is rupees 10 per hour. So when talking about the labor cost, the rate per hour is how much? Rupees 10 per hour. Per hour. So 30 minutes, if we convert it into hour, we have to divide it by 60. So we'll get rupees 5. Again, the rate per hour is rupees 10 and every units require 45 minutes. So 45 divided by 60, this will be 7.5. Again, 10 is the rate per hour. And to manufacture every product, we require 60 minutes. So in short, 1 hour for every unit. So this will be 10 rupees. This is how we will get the prime cost. That is 8 plus 5, 13, 19.5 and 16. Now, when talking about overheads, When talking about the overheads, it is given in the question that the production overheads were budgeted at 99,450 rupees and they are absorbed using the direct labor hour rate. This is what our prime cost. Now we have to write the overheads also. For this, we have to calculate the absorption rate. So calculation of absorption. So total overheads are 99,450 divided by labor hours. The total overheads are 99,450 divided by the number of labor hours. So herein, total 4,000 units are manufactured and every unit requires 30 minutes. Total 4,000 into 30 divided by 60. So for product A, 2,000 hours. Product A, it is 2,000 hours. Now again, when talking about product B, total 3,000 units are manufactured and every unit requires 45 minutes. So if we divide it by 60, we will get 2250 hours for product B. And when talking about product C again, 1,600 units are manufactured and every unit requires 60 minutes. So 1,600 will be the. So this is how we will get the absorption rate. That is rupees 17. Now we can charge this rate to this products to calculate the total cost. So 17 per hour. So for 30 minutes, how much it will be? So 17 into 30 divided by 60. So this will be 8.5. 70. This will be 12.75. And this will be. So this will be the cost per unit. That is 21.5. $32.25. This is how the total cost will be calculated. Sorry, per unit cost will be calculated. That is prime cost plus the overheads. Now, since we have got the number of units, we can easily calculate the total cost. So the number of units are 4,000, 3,000 and 1,600. 4,000, 3,000 and 1,600. So the total cost will be how much? 4,000 into 21.5. So this will be 86,000. $96,750. $52,800. So this is how the total cost will be calculated and the per unit cost will be calculated using the traditional approach of costing or absorption costing. Sir, please repeat the distribution of overhead. So guys, the concept is very simple. We have got the absorption rate that is rupees 17 per hour. So 17 per hour into 30 divided by 60. Again 17 into 45 by 60. Again 17 into 60 by 60. So this is how we will get the overheads. If you guys have any doubts in this part, you guys can please post your query. So now thereafter we will start with activity-based costing calculation. Ms. Mamta Yadav, when talking about absorption rate, the total overheads divided by labor hours. So when talking about how come I got these 2000 hours, so see 4000 units are manufactured and every unit requires 30 minutes. So if we convert it into hours, it is 60. So we will get 2000. Similarly, for 2250 again, the total number of units are 3000 and every unit requires 45 minutes divided by 60. And every unit requires 60 minutes, so that's why 1600 hours. Yes, Mr. Venkatraman. I hope your query is resolved, Ashok and Mamta. Now we are done with the first part of the question. Now let's start with what second part is asking us. Prepare a statement for the management showing the product cost of each product. Product cost of each product using activity-based costing. So now the second part is asking us to calculate the product cost and the total cost using activity-based costing. So let's start, guys. So now second part, statement showing calculation of unit cost and total cost as per activity-based costing. Again, three products, that is A, B, and C. So A, B, and C. When talking about the material cost, 8, 12, and 6, the labor cost is given. We have already calculated 5, 7.5, and 10. So we'll get the prime cost and it will be 13, 19.5, and 16. So now, instead of going per unit for the overheads, we will first calculate the total prime cost, total overheads, and then we will calculate the unit cost. I find it approach bit easy. So now we'll calculate the total prime cost. So the number of units are 4,000. So 13 into 4,000. So this will be 52,000. 19.5 into 3,000. So this will be 58,500. And 16 into 1,600. So this will be 25,600. Now we have to add the overheads. City. Material handling. Storage cost. So now for every activity, there will be a separate overheads for every product. So now what we have to do is, we have to first calculate the absorption rate of every activity. So we have to calculate the absorption rate for every activity. So let's start, guys. So for every activity, we have to calculate the separate absorption rate. So calculation of absorption rate. Now, these are the activities. That is material handling, storage cost, and electricity cost. Now, the amount of overheads are also given. That is 29,100. $31,200 and 39,150. So we have got the amount. Now for every activity, there will be a separate basis of absorption. We call it as cost driver. For every activity, there will be a separate basis of absorption. We call it as cost driver. So when talking about material handling, it is absorbed on the basis of weight of material. Weight of material. When talking about storage cost, it is given that on the basis of number of batches of material. So it is absorbed on the basis of number of batches of material. When talking about electricity, on the basis of number of machine operation. Number of machine So now when talking about the weight of material, we can easily calculate the weight of material So herein the material is given, that is 4 kgs are required to manufacture A, 6 kgs are required to manufacture product B, and 3 kgs are required to manufacture product C. So guys, first one is this, second one is this, third one is this. Due to space constant, I'm writing the fourth part here. So when talking about the calculation of weight of material, A, B, and C. So 4,000 into 4 kgs. A, B, C, and total. So 4,000 into 4 kgs. So this will be 16,000. That is 4,000 into 4. When talking about B, it is 3,000 into 6. So this will be 18,000. And last is 1,600 into 3. So this will be 4,800. So 16,000 plus 18,000 plus 4,800. So this will be 38,800. So this is how we will calculate the total weight of material, that is 38,800. 4,000 units into 4 kgs, 3,000 units into 6 kgs, and 1,600 units into 3 kgs. So total 38,800 is the weight of material. So we have got the total weight of material 38,800. Now, when talking about the storage cost, it is dependent upon the number of batches. So herein, it is given in the question that for complete production, the batches of material are 10, 5, and 15. Again, I repeat, when talking about the batches of material, it is clearly given in the question that the number of batches are 15, 15, 5, and 10, 5, and 15. That for the complete production, that is for the total production, the number of batches of material are how much? 10, 5, and 15. So the total number of batches are 30. Further, when talking about the number of machine operations, it is given in the question that it is per unit of production. Electricity is dependent upon the number of machine hours, so the number of machine operation. And herein, when talking about the number of machine operation, it is given per unit. So again, we have to calculate the total number of machine operation. For A, B, and C, and total. So herein the machine operations are given per unit of production, total 6, 3, and 2. So 6 into 4,000, that is 24,000. 3 into 3,000, that is 9,000. And 1,600 into 2, that is 3,200. So this is how we'll get the total machine operation. So 24,000 plus 9,000 plus 3,200. So this will be 36,200. If you guys have any doubts in this calculation, you guys can please post your queries. Waiting for your queries, guys. This is how I have calculated the weight of material and the number of machine operation. Herein, when talking about the machine operations, it is given per unit. So that's why I have multiplied it by number of units. But yes, when talking about the batches, it is given in the question. That is, when talking about the batch of material, it is given for complete production. That's why हम लोगों ने units consider नहीं किए हैं. पूरे प्रोडक्शन के लिए प्रोडक्ट ए के 10 बैचेस थे, बी के 5 बैचेस थे और सी के 15 बैचेस थे. So now we have got the units of the cost driver, so we can easily calculate the absorption rate. So 29,100 divided by 38,800. So this will be 0.75 per kg, because it is on the basis of weight of material. 31,200 divided by 30. So this will be 1040 per batch. And when talking about electricity, 39,150 divided by 36,200. So this will be 1.08 per machine operation. If you guys have any doubts with this part, you guys can please post your queries. Very good, Ashok. Yes, the number of times the material handled, Mr. Anmol Patwa. So herein, when talking about the statement showing calculation of unit cost and total cost, we have got the prime cost, that is the same 13, 19.5 and 16. So the total prime cost will be 13 into 4,000, 19.5 into 3,000 and 16 into 1,600. So this is how we got these figures. Now when talking about overhead, we need to calculate first the absorption rate, then only we can calculate the total overheads. So when talking about the calculation of absorption rate as per activity based costing, there are three activities, that is material handling, storage cost and electricity, and the figures are given. Further, on what basis these overheads are to be absorbed, that is also given. So for material handling, it is dependent upon the weight of material. Further, when talking about storage cost, it will be absorbed on the basis of number of batches. And when talking about electricity, it will be absorbed on the basis of machine operation. So when talking about the weight of material, we have calculated the weight of material. When talking about the number of batches for the complete production, this figure is given straight away in the material. When talking about electricity, it depends upon the number of machine operation. However, in question, the number of machine operation that are given is per unit. So very important, guys. I repeat again, and as I've told you guys in the past also, that half of the work is done when you read the question carefully. So guys, do read the question carefully. हर question की एक एक लाइन आप ध्यान से पढ़िए. ऐसा ना हो कि आपको पूरा क्वेश्चन आता है फिर भी एग्जाम में आप गलत करके आए. So very important, guys, read each and every word of the question carefully and then start solving the question. So herein, we have got the absorption rate, so we can easily calculate the total overheads. So when talking about the material handling cost, it is 0.75 per kg. So 16,000 into 0.75. So this will be the material handling cost. So 16,000 into 0.75. So this will be 12,000. Again, 18,000 into 0.75. This will be 13,500. Again, 16,000 into 0.75, 18,000 into 0.75, and 4,800 into 0.75. When talking about the storage, it depends upon the number of batches of material. So it is 1,040 per batch. And further, the batches are given in the question, that is 10, 5, and 15. So 1,040 into 10, this will be 10,400. 1040 into 5. So this will be 5200, and 1040 into 15. So this will be 15,600. Let's take it to. So now when talking about electricity, again, the number of machine operations we have already calculated. So 24,000 into 1.081. So this will be 25,944. 9,000 into 1.081. This will be 9,729. This will be 345. Let me recheck the calculations. So this will be 3,200. So now we can easily calculate the total cost. So my total cost will be 52,000 plus 12,000. One double zero 344. We have got the total cost. If we divide it by the number of units, that is 4,300, 3,000, 4,000, 3,000, and 1,600. We can calculate the cost per unit. So this will be 30.16. So this is how this question will be solved. If you guys have any doubts in this part, you guys can please post your query. So when talking about if examiner do ask such type of question, if it is traditional costing, then first prepare the statement as per traditional costing. Now, since the question is asking us to prepare what? The statement. So this will be the statement of calculation of cost, and this will form part of working note. Very important, guys. These two statements will form part of working note. This will be. क्वेश्चन आपको एब्जॉर्प्शन रेट निकालने का स्टेटमेंट नहीं पूछ रहा है. सो गाइस, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट व्हाइल राइटिंग फॉर द एग्जाम्स, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, जो क्वेश्चन पूछे उसको आप मेन आंसर में लिखिए. उसके बाद जो भी वर्किंग्स है आपको वर्किंग नोट पे लिखनी है. So herein the question is asking us to prepare the statement of total cost as per traditional costing and as per activity based costing. So these two should be the main statement and rest all should form part of working note. So if you guys have any doubts or queries in this part, you guys can please post your query. Further, I request you guys to please copy this presentation. This is the best way to present in exams. This table you need to prepare in every question. I repeat again, guys, this table is very important. This table you need to prepare in every question. हर क्वेश्चन में आपको ये टेबल तो प्रिपेयर करना ही पड़ेगा. So I request you guys to please copy this, copy the solution. Anyone else having any doubts, queries? किसी की कोई doubt query है, you guys can please post. The total cost will be different as per traditional costing and activity-based costing because activity-based costing is more precise and more detailed. So this statement gives you a better cost picture rather than the traditional system of costing. So yes, the total cost of every product will be different. If it is traditional costing or activity-based costing, the cost will be different. Anyone else? Any doubts, queries? Waiting for your queries. I request you guys to please copy the solution. This is the best way to present in exams. And this table is very important, guys. This table is very important. This table you need to prepare in every question. This table is very important, guys. Ashok Karyal, please check. It is given in the question that machine operations are per unit and the number of batches are for the total, for the entire production. Any other doubts, Preeti? Anmol, Ashok, any doubts? Mamta, Kadambari, any doubts? Mr. Srinivasan, Neha Sharma, any doubts? Shweta? Sakshi, Rajiv, any doubts? Preeti Khetan, any doubts? I request you guys to please copy the solution. This table is very important. You guys have to prepare this table in every question, every solution. So let's take a break of 10 to 15 minutes. Thereafter, we'll discuss 2 more questions. In the meanwhile, if you guys are fresh and fit, then try solving illustration number 2 on your own. So you will get the confidence that you will be able to solve the question or not. So I request you guys to solve illustration number 2 during the break. Again, I repeat, read each and every word of the question carefully. See, एक्टिविटी बेस्ड कॉस्टिंग के क्वेश्चंस काफी लेंदी भी रहते हैं और सॉल्यूशंस भी लेंदी रहते हैं, but yes, this chapter is very easy and examiner do ask question frequently on this chapter. In every attempt or alternate attempt, you'll find a question on activity based costing of minimum 10 marks. So guys, even though the question is lengthy, the solution is lengthy, but yes, if I suggest you guys to stick to the concept, आप अपने concept पे stick रहिए and further solve the question step by step. That is first step, calculate the total cost as per traditional costing. Second step, leave some empty space and prepare this statement using calculation of absorption rate. If any other workings are required, then you do prepare the working and then put up the final solution in the main table. So these are the steps you need to follow while solving activity-based costing. Rest, it's one of the easiest chapter of the syllabus. The point is that you should stick to your concept. Further, follow each and every step one by one. Further, the important part, most important part, read each and every word of the question carefully. And again, practice is the key to success. So you have to practice a lot for better understanding and clarity of concepts. So let's take 15 minutes break. Minutes break. I'll be back after the break, and I want you guys to solve illustration number 2 during the break. So, Edwin sir. Welcome back welcome back after the break, much needed break. So I hope you guys have solved illustration number 2. So without wasting time, let's start with one more question. Again, this question, illustration number 2, is very easy. So let's start with the next question. I want to discuss practical question number 1. So I request you guys to please open practical question number 1. It's a very good question. I request you guys to please open practical question number 1. Practical question number 1, page number 5.34. Very good, Neha. I hope you guys are thorough with the concept of activity-based costing. So now let's start with practical question number 1. Very good, Preeti. Very good, Neha. Very good, Anmol. Very good, Harish. So now let's start with practical question number 1. Again, a very good question. Woolmark Limited manufactures 3 types of product P, Q, and R. The data relating to a product are as under, wherein the machine hours per unit is given, labor hours per unit is given, direct material per unit is given in rupees, production units are given. Currently, the company uses traditional costing method and absorb all the production overhead on the basis of machine hour, and the machine hour rate of absorption is rupees 6 per hour. Further, the direct labor rate is rupees 20 per hour. It means the wages are paid at the rate rupees 20 per hour. The company proposes to use activity-based costing system, and the activity analysis is as under, wherein the batch size in units is given. Okay, it's not the number of batches. Again, the batch size is given, that every batch is of 150 units, 500 units, and 1000 units. Further, the number of purchase order per batch. For every batch, 3 purchase orders are required. In case of P, Q, it is 10, and R, it is 8. Further, again, the number of inspection per batch is given. So the number of batches are not given. However, the batch size is given, so we can easily calculate the number of batches. Further, the total production overhead are analyzed as under, wherein setup cost is 20%, operation cost is 30%, inspection cost is 40%, and material procurement related cost is 10%. Calculate the cost per unit of each product using traditional method of absorbing all the production overhead on the basis of machine hour. So now the first question, the first point, what the question is asking is that you have to calculate the cost per unit as per traditional method of costing, traditional method of absorption. So let's start with practical question number 1. Page number is 5.34. So statement of cost per unit. So first point, so there are three products, that is P, Q, and R. Product P, product Q, and product R. Now, when talking about the material cost, it is given in the question straight away, that is rupees 90, 80, and 120. When talking about labor cost also, it is given that the direct labor hour per unit is 4 and the rate is 20 per hour. So 4 into 20. So this will be 80. 12 into 20, that will be 240. And this will be 160. Further, so we'll calculate the prime cost also. 170, 320, and 280. Further, when talking about overheads, it is given in the question that the overhead are absorbed, that is the overheads are absorbed. Further, it is given in the question that the overheads are absorbed on the basis of machine hour, and it is rupees 6 per hour. Further, the machine hours per unit is also given. So every units require 10 machine hours of for product P. So 10 into 6, 60 will be the overheads in case of P. No need to calculate the absorption rate because it is given in the question. So the machine hour rate is rupees 6 per hour. So 6 into 10, that is 60. 18 into 6, this will be 108. And 14 into 6, so this will be 84. So this will be the total cost per unit. Two 30, 428, and 364. Now let's proceed further with the next part. That is what the question is asking. Calculate the cost per unit of each product using activity-based costing. Now herein the question is asking us to calculate the cost per unit using activity-based costing. Again, so statement of cost as per activity-based costing. Now herein, we have to first calculate the total overheads because the total overheads are not given in the question. However, the absorption rate as per traditional system of costing is given. So let's first calculate the total overheads. So see, when talking about the calculation of overheads, we need to first calculate the total machine hours. So let's start with the working note. There are three products, P, Q, and R. So for calculation of total overhead, we need to calculate the machine hours. So herein, the machine hours per unit are 10. So the total machine hours will be how much? 10 into 3000, that is 30,000 in case of P. When talking about Q, it will be 18 into 5,000. So this will be 90,000. When talking about Q, this will be 90,000. And when talking about R, again total 20,000 units are manufactured. And the total hours required per unit is 14. So this will be 2,80,000. So the total machine hours are 4 lakh. So my total overheads will be how much? It is given that the overheads are absorbed on the basis of machine hours. So total there are 4 lakh machine hours. And the absorption rate is rupees 6 per hour. So the total overheads will be how much? 24 lakh. Now next is calculation of absorption rate. Calculation of absorption rate. So here, when talking about activity, there are 4 activity, that is machine setup cost, machine operation cost, inspection cost, and material procurement related cost. Machine setup cost, machine setup cost, machine operation cost, machine operation cost. Thereafter, it is inspection cost. And thereafter, it is material procurement cost. Material procurement cost. These are the activities that are given in the question. When talking about the amount, it is given the percentage of total overhead. So we can easily calculate the total amount. When talking about the total percentage, it is of the total overhead, 20% relates to machine setup cost. Machine operation, it is 30%. 40% is inspection cost. And 10% is procurement cost. So this will be 4,80,000, 7,20,000, 9,60,000, and 2,40,000. When talking about the basis of absorption, we call it as cost drivers. Now, in the previous question, the clear information was given. I mean, the information was clearly given that इस activity का ये cost driver होगा. But herein in this question, no information is given as regards किस activity का कौन सा cost driver होगा. So we have to identify the cost driver for every activity. So when talking about the machine setup cost, one second. When talking about the machine setup cost, see herein the batch size is given, the number of purchase order per batch is given, and the number of inspection per batch is given. So when talking about the machine setup cost, it can be absorbed on the basis of number of batches of material. Again, when talking about machine setup cost, it can be absorbed on the basis of number of batches of material. Reason being, for every batch, we have to again create a separate setup. So that's why we can say that for machine setup cost, we can assume that it can be absorbed on the basis of number of setups. However, when talking about the question, the batch size is given, the number of batches are not given. So I repeat again, when talking about machine setup, it can be absorbed on the basis of number of setups, or we can say number of batches. However, in this question, the batch size is given, the number of batches are not given. So we can easily calculate the number of batches. So herein we can easily calculate the number of batches. Why we have taken the number of batches as the basis of absorption? Because it's the setup cost. So it means for every batch, you have to create a separate setup. That's why we are absorbing the overheads on the basis of number of setups. So calculation of number of batches. Now, when talking about product P, Q, and R, total units manufactured are 3,000, 5,000, and 20,000. 3,000, 5,000, and 20,000. Further, the batch size is given. That in every batch, we do order 150 units of P, 500 units of Q, and 1,000 units of R. So it means we can easily get the number of batches. So for this, the cost driver will be number of batches. So 150 divided 3,000 divided by 150. So total number of batches will be 20, 10, and 20. So in aggregate, total 50 batches. Units and so the total number of batches are 50. So we can easily calculate the absorption rate. That is 4,80,000 divided by 50. So it is 9,600 rupees per batch. Now next is machine operation. Now herein, when talking about the information given in the question, machine operation has nothing to do with batch size, purchase order, and inspection. So we can say machine operation can be absorbed on the basis of number of machine hours. So herein, this is the most appropriate basis of absorption. So when talking about the machine operation, it can be absorbed on the basis of machine hours. So herein, when talking about the calculation of, when talking about the number of machine hours, we are already done with the calculation. So that is total 4 lakh hours. So 7,20,000 divided by 4 lakh. So 1.8 per hour. So when talking about machine operations, since no other, so when talking about the number of, when talking about the machine operation, the most appropriate basis of absorption is what? Machine hours. So herein we have absorbed the overheads on the basis of machine hours. Now the next cost is inspection cost. Again, when talking about the inspection cost, it is more or less dependent upon the number of inspections. However, in this case, the number of inspection is given per batch. So we can easily calculate the total number of inspection. So when talking about inspection cost, it is dependent upon number of inspection. So next, fourth working note, calculation of number of inspection. Again, three products P, Q, and R. Number of batches we have already calculated. that is 20, 10, and 20. Now it is given in the question that the inspection, number of inspection per batch, for every batch, inspection per batch is given. That is how much? 5, 4, and 3. One second, guys. I think the letters are not visible. Calculation of number of inspection, number of batches, inspection per batch, and number of. I hope these letters are visible now. So there are 3 products P, Q, and R. Now numbers of batches we have already calculated, that is 20, 10, and 20. Now inspection per batch is given, that is 5, 4, and 3. So 5 to the 10, 100, 40, and 60. So in aggregate 200. So 9,60,000 divided by 200, you'll get 400 per. Further, when talking about the material procurement part, it is, as discussed, it is dependent upon number of purchase order. Herein also the number of purchase order per batch is given. So similarly, we can easily calculate. So 3, 10, and 8. So I'm calculating it directly. So 3, 10, and 8. So 3 into 20, 10 into 10 and 8 into 20. So 3 into 20. So this will be 320. So 2,40,000 divided by. If you guys have any doubts, again, this table is very important for every question. You have to prepare this table. Rest all we need to calculate, since the direct information is not given in the question. So if you guys have any doubts till now, you guys can please post your queries. I hope now it is visible, Nancy. So I repeat again, guys, when talking about machine setup cost for every, it is to be absorbed on the basis of number of batches, because for every batch we have to create a separate setup. When talking about the machine operation, it is to be absorbed on the basis of machine hours. When talking about inspection cost, on the basis of number of inspection. When talking about material procurement cost, on the basis of number of purchase order. Okay, so there is a query from Manohar Sir Ji. Kindly elaborate how batch size are considered for number of batches and how batch size are different from number of batches. So see, Mr. Manoj, one second. So batch size of 150 unit, it means what? हर एक बैच में 150 यूनिट्स हम लोग मैन्युफैक्चर करते हैं. I repeat again, when talking about 150 units is the batch size, it means what? In every batch we manufacture 150 units, And in total, how many units we have manufactured for product P? 3,000. So total 3,000 units we have manufactured, and in every batch we manufacture 150 units. It means what? Total how many batches? 20 batches. There are total number of 20 batches in which we have manufactured 3,000 units. So that is the difference between the batch size and number of units. Batch size means what? The number of units manufactured in a batch. And when talking about batches, it means the number of batches for the entire production. That's okay, Suman. Let me complete first. So let's proceed further with the final calculation. We have got the prime cost per unit. So if we multiply it with number of units, we'll get the total prime cost. So herein, when talking about the number of units, it is given in the question, that is 3,000, 5,000 and 20,000. Now we'll distribute the overheads. So setup cost, first of all, it is 9,600 per batch. And we have already calculated the number of batches. So 20 into 9,600. So this will be 1,92,000. How come 1,92,000? 9,600 per batch into the number of batches, that is 20. 9,600 into 20. Similarly, 9,600 into 10. That is 96,000. Similarly, 9,600 into 20. That is 1 lakh. Now, when talking about the machine operation, again, it is 1.8 per machine hour. Herein we have calculated the machine hours also, that is 30,000, 90,000 and 2,80,000. So 30,000 into 1.8. So this will be 54,000. That is 30,000 into 1.8. Similarly, 90,000 are the number of machine hours. So 90,000 into 1.8. So this will be 1,62,000. and 2,80,000 into 1.8. So this will be 5,04,000. Then next is inspection cost. So inspection cost is 4,800 per inspection. And the number of inspections we have already calculated. So 4,800 into 100. So this will be 4,800 into 4,800 into 40. Next is 4,800 into 60. Similarly, you can calculate the material procurement cost also. If you guys have any doubts, you guys can please post your queries. I request you guys to please complete this solution, that is material procurement cost. And then once the total cost is calculated, if you divide it by number of units, you'll get the cost per unit. If you guys have any doubts in this part, if you guys can please post your queries. Let me complete. I think one of the student is facing difficulty. So when talking about the material, it is number of purchase orders. So total 750 per order. And we have already calculated the number of purchase order. So it is 3 into 20. For PQR, purchase order are 3 into 20, that is 60. Ten into 10, that is 100. And 20 into 8. So now 60 into 750. So this will be 45,000. 100 into 750. So this will be 75,000. And 160 into 750. This will be 1,20,000. So this is how the material procurement cost will be distributed. And this is the way to solve the question. So I repeat again, guys, you guys can calculate the total amount and divide it by number of units. You guys will get the total cost per unit. So now, very good, Kadambari. Very good, Harish. I request you guys to please copy the solution. Again, the first step is what? The statement of cost as per traditional system. Second is statement of cost as per activity based costing. Now rest all will form part working of your answer. So this table is the key. This table is the key. You have to prepare this table, that is activity, amount, driver, units, and absorption rate. So this table is very important. I mean, if there is any mistake, अगर इस table में कोई mistake हो गया तो आपका सब answers गलत आएगा. So very important, guys. This table is the key. Rest all, since no information is given as regards the number of batches or number of inspection or number of orders, that's why I have made this calculation. So in most of the question, the information will be given that किस activity का cost driver है. The reason for discussing this question is that कई questions ऐसे हैं जिसमें cost driver नहीं दिए हुए होते हैं. So the point is थोड़ा आप दिमाग लगाइए and then identify the cost driver and accordingly do calculate the absorption rate. Nisha Kumari, this is how come 320, that is 60 plus 100 plus 160. That is 3 into 20. That is 20 batches, and for every batch there are 3 purchase order. So 60. 10 batches into, for every batch there are total 10 purchase orders, so 100. Now see Anmol Patwa, wherein sir, what do you mean by a batch? So see, काफी companies में production volume काफी high होता है. So instead of manufacturing all the units in one go, they do manufacture certain number of units in a group. That group is called as batch. So let's say if my annual production is 10 lakh units. Now in every batch I manufacture 15,000 units. So 15,000, if we manufacture one unit, I mean 15,000 units in a group, we call it as a batch. Very good, Preeti. Yes, सुमन, आपको पर यूनिट कॉस्ट निकालना है. क्वेश्चन में आपको पर यूनिट कॉस्ट निकालने के लिए बोला गया है. Ashok Karyal, we do prepare costing P&L in cost accounting and profit and loss account in profit and loss account in financial accounts. So in costing, we do prepare costing P&L. So if you guys have any doubts, those who want to copy the solution can please copy. Okay, so Nisha Kumari sir, how come I have got 320? So 60 plus 100 plus 160, this is how I got 320. The total number of purchase order. For product P, there are 60 purchase order. For product Q, there are 100 purchase order. For product R, there are 160 purchase order. So in aggregate, total 320 purchase order. And accordingly, we have calculated their absorption rate, that is 750 per order. Thank you so much, Sakshi. I'm there till the last session. So don't worry, whatever the queries you have, you guys can please post your query. Further, I'll request ICAI to keep a query session also. So don't worry, my dear. Nisha Kumari, hopefully your query is resolved. Anmol Patwa, hopefully your query is resolved. Vijay Raghavan, very good morning. I think you joined a bit late. So that's it for the day, guys. We are done with activity-based costing. Again, I suggest you guys to solve questions. I mean, जितना हो सके ज्यादा से ज्यादा क्वेश्चन आप प्रैक्टिकल सॉल्व कीजिए. Again, in writing में solve कीजिए. You have to solve the questions in writing rather than doing ticking in the book, because again there is no alternate of hard work. So try to solve as many as possible questions in writing. The more you practice, the more you will be, the better you will be in concepts, and there are more chances that you will be able to crack the exams. So thank you so much, guys, for your time and patience. I'll be back in the next, I think the next chapter is process costing that I'll be taking care of. So I think 1 or 2 chapters, I think ma'am or sir is taking care. So I'll be taking care from I'll be taking forward with the remaining chapters from process costing and onwards. So in the meanwhile, I request you guys to solve the questions of overhead and activity-based costing from study material, past practice manual, RTPs, MTPs, whatever the queries you have, you guys can please post your query. I'll keep a note of the queries and we'll try to keep a query session and we'll address all your queries. So enjoy the break. Enjoy the break, guys. Take care. God bless you. And yes, without fail, solve all the questions of study material and past practice manual of overheads and activity-based costing. Thank you so much, guys. God bless you.